we have to remove the fear and we create a relaxed and safe place. If you can work right now on creating a relaxed state of mind and a safe place, that's really the beginning of great cooperation.
Do you feel the pressure to grow your business, but doing so feels a bit like drowning? Welcome to Slow Growth Business, the show for business owners and leaders to quiet the noise and lead your business to success, one day at a time, slow and steady. If you feel your business is running you and you're ready to run it, you've come to the right place. Now, here are your hosts, business coaches Jimmy DeGroot and me, Kyle Bullock.
All right, last time you intrigued me, Kyle Bullock. You intrigued me because I really enjoyed the idea of, what was it, cooperation, or what was it first?
Compliance or cooperation?
I really enjoyed the topic of compliance or cooperation because I find that in my life and in a lot of people's life, the confusion of that has caused angst for a lot of people. And that's, it leads to the question, why can't I get people to do what I want them to do? And I love how you brought that up. And so last time we talked about it, and then I said we should continue talking about it. And the reason I think we should continue talking about it is because one of the first questions I have for you is the litmus test. What should I be asking myself? Do I want compliance in this issue, or do I want cooperation? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. When do I want cooperation over compliance?
So for example, for me, I'm a big World War II buff, and I just got done reading a book about, of course, D-Day. And D-Day, you needed compliance with every soldier on certain issues that involved them coming back alive. Okay. With regard to safety, how to use your weapon, do not try to save a soldier, keep going, let the medics take care of a soldier that was ailing. But then you have the paratroopers that flew in miles and miles off course. They had no idea where they were when they got behind enemy lines in France. Now you can't have compliance. Now you have to have cooperation. And this is where cooperation was absolutely huge. So you needed people thinking creatively and getting together and creating new teams and et cetera, et cetera. So that's the difference between compliance and cooperation to me. But my question to you then is, if I'm a business person and what we did is we use the coming in on time type of thing. What is on time? I want people to come in at 8 a.m. because our doors open at 9 a.m. And we discussed, compliance or cooperation at that point. And you've really opened my eyes to think, yeah, maybe I need to have cooperation here instead of compliance. So I'm sorry for rambling, but this is how I picture all this. So what would kind of be that litmus test? When do I need compliance versus when do I need cooperation?
Well, I think you already hit the nail on the head with your D-Day reference. That broad strokes, you needed compliance when there was the risk of injury, safety, wellness, mission critical stuff. All right.
Okay.
And business is the same way, right? If there is a policy that's there because you need to comply with safety procedures or security procedures, the wellness of each other, the wellness of your store, security, those are non-negotiable, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can have creative input that helps you be more secure or more safe, but at some point, very quickly you say, this is the rule. We have to follow the rule. Everybody follows the rule. Yeah. And we have to comply, right? Those are really critical stuff. Cooperation is 80% of the day, though, for most retail stores. We're not dealing with life and death situations. So most of the decisions that you're dealing with, they may seem like we want to have them comply, but that's not really the best way to get there. There's some really great research that I'm starting to learn right now about how you create environments and cultures. How do you form and create a culture, right? Okay. It takes time, and it made me think of our theme as a slow growth model. Compliance is a fast growth model. I want you, Jimmy, to do what I've asked you to do, and I need you to do it right now. Comply. It's the quickest way to get you to do what I want you to do. That's a fast growth model, and it costs a lot. It costs human capital, like it costs emotional capital. It costs people like the feeling like, well, I'm not really contributing. I'm just a worker bee, right?
All right. So I'm thinking more franchise stuff, McDonald's, things like that. This is how the burgers are done. You must comply.
Right. Every single time.
Here. Okay.
Flipping burgers, off they go. But the slow growth model says, I want to create a culture that invites more excellence and upgrades our performance beyond what we realized we could do. So I need cooperation. And that takes time. And the biggest barrier I think people have to really creating an atmosphere of cooperation is that it just takes time. This research that I'm reading is touching on the fact that the best systems for developing a sense of community, of teamwork, are ones that are democratic in nature. Meaning, I'm not talking about the American system of democracy. It's a political system.
You mean everybody's involved.
Everyone's involved. And they work on that involvement in a particular way. The key here is that they found that environments that were more authoritarian, meaning you came in to me, Jimmy, and you said, man, just get it done because I said so. Those are the fast killers of culture. And it creates embitterment. It creates distancing from people. Like people feel like they don't really belong to a group. Because again, they're just a robot that you're pushing commands into. And so with that in mind, when you're asking a question of when do I lean on cooperation versus compliance, there are some very clear boundaries like safety, security we got to take care of. Then ask yourself, what's the kind of culture that I want to create? Do I really just want a franchise that you push people's buttons and you don't mind a high turnover in employees because who cares? I can just get another one tomorrow. Right. Well, compliance all day long, and you're probably going to limit your creativity, and you're going to limit the culture from it's just going to be corporate. Everyone's wearing a suit that looks the same. But if you go, I really want to put my flavor on the business. I want my flavor of leadership to shine through, and I want it to be a wonderful place to live, work, and play. Then you're going to have to do cooperation because that's where culture gets developed.
Yeah. The word buy-in comes to mind for me all the time when you're talking about that, because if I get people to buy in emotionally to a solution or, a problem in the company, you get in a buy into whatever that is, or a success model or goals even. I think it just makes your job as a leader easier. Now you're more of a cheerleader than a linebacker coach, so to speak.
I agree. There's an analogy that I'll use that I think that shows the balance between cooperation and compliance in theater and in the performing arts, which is a world that I've spent a lot of time in and I'm still involved in from time to time, either directing plays or being in them. We have this term called theater speak, right? So when you're in a production, if you've ever been on stage or you've been a performer, when there's a live audience in front of you and you have a show to do, playing instruments, whatever, you know this, Jimmy, because you play. Your job is to do the thing for the audience. So you can't just stop the show and be like, hold on, everybody who's sitting there and paid tickets. Let me go work on this chord progression real quick and just make it right for you. They didn't pay money to see that. That's cooperation, right? They came to see you do the show. So you do the show. It's compliance. And we call it theater speak backstage, which means that if I have to get from stage right to stage left and I have to do it quietly behind the set and you're in my way, I'm going to tell you, Jimmy, get out of my way or just move.
Right. Yep.
And it sounds aggressive, but we call it theater speak. It doesn't mean move. I hate your soul. It means, Jimmy, move. I need to get the mission accomplished.
Yep. Exactly.
And in retail, I think it's the same thing. We spend rehearsals prepping and planning and creating. That's all cooperative, right? Like we're all cooperating together to create this thing, a sound, the instruments playing together and going, hey, what if I try this instead of that? Rehearsal time, training time, this time that you all are listening to this podcast, this is cooperation time where you're going to sit down afterwards and go, all right, how to make the thing better? When the customers walk through the door, what we're doing is we take the plan that we all built together and we do the plan.
Right.
And tomorrow we go, you know what? Tomorrow, let's do it a little bit different. There's cooperation. And when we're in the mission, it's game time.
it doesn't turn into compliance then you're in front of the customer. Then it turns into what you agreed as right. It doesn't turn into compliance. It never does.
Co-op-alliancing. Co-op-alliance. I'm taking the plan that we built together, and I'm going to do the plan. And the plan may not work, may be great, but we got to stick to the plan.
We teach, and this was your idea with our management coaching, we teach writing recipes. So writing recipes, that's not even compliance there. That's cooperation as well, right? Because a lot of times what I would do is I would involve the team in writing those recipes. So I'm not trying to be weird here and try to draw real fine lines here. I think a lot of business owners, they run their business day to day and they don't have a plan. They don't have a structure. And so it's all about cooperation. And I wish it could all be cooperation because I don't want to yell at people. I don't want to demand things. I want to create this environment where it's nice to be at. So I think we've got to put those compliance things into play and then know how to work with cooperation.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you see as the barrier with people who are leaning a lot on compliance, where they're frustrated? They go, I just want people to do what I've said. What's behind that? What's the hardest thing that you see that people to get them away from compliance to something more cooperative?
Well, when I was running things, I was going from a very non-structured environment to, hey, we got to have some structure here. So I would say to my team, listen, these are some areas where we absolutely need compliance. Okay, this is, it just has to be done this way. We got to close the safe at night. It was simply an area of we need these things done. We need peace and security, serenity when we're home away from the business. So when we have compliance, we know that things are done right. And I used to use checklists all the time for that. No matter how many years you've been there, 20 years, you still use a checklist because a checklist will keep you accountable. And then the rest of it is all cooperation. And it's, hey, let's build the system we want. Went everywhere from inventory to, what days we were going to be open. I think it's very easy to get stuck into kind of doing things the old way, which was mom and pop as the business grew up. And sometimes when the business grows up, we've got to instill compliance in some areas. We just have to do it. We want to keep that cooperation high because we love the kumbaya, lovey-dovey, this is the way mom and dad always said it. But I think one of the big areas right now is we see a lack of compliance in areas that need that.
Yeah. Because I think maybe there's security. Would you say there's just some security in having a compliance system, meaning that you've owned a business for 10, 20, 30 years, you've figured out things that work, that don't work. So you've written the recipes and the models, and it's like, okay, we know that these things work. So if you just do it, then enough have to reinvent the wheel every day.
Right.
It feels safe. I can run a business safely that way.
Sure.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
But I think we often see as coaches, and there's a situation I think you'll remember where we're talking to members of the team who've come into a business from the outside. They haven't been there for decades. They didn't build it. And what they start doing is they start asking questions of well, why do we do it this way? Mm-hmm. So they're scratching at, can we change that? It's cooperation. That's the interest of, I want to help make this better.
Sure.
And the response can very quickly be, no, just do the job because I don't want to change it too much. So your ideas are sweet and all, but I kind of want to do it my way. And the staff was very much like, in this particular situation, they're like, yeah, but we know a pathway that we can make it more efficient. There was this resistance to want to change.
Sure.
And in this situation, I'm thinking about what you just said and going, well, sure, because the boss, the person who's running the company, perhaps some who are listening to this, it's scary to change from a compliant system. I've built the systems, just do the thing.
Exactly.
It feels unsafe.
It's scary. It's scary either way. Whether you're in a cooperative situation and you need to get some compliance, that's a little bit scary because now I got to start drawing some black lines here that you must not cross. But you're absolutely right. And I was going to bring that up. There are people that have like, hey, listen, I've built this from the ground up. I know what we should be doing. Follow this recipe. In both areas, it's a little scary to go the other way. Yeah. So maybe be thinking about that. If you're listening here, am I stuck in a compliance system where I'm not, bringing my people's creativity? And I think the thing is that compliance system could also give you the freedom knowing that you can walk away from the business and boxes are being checked, right?
Yeah.
I's are dotted and T's are crossed. You can have comfort in that, but I wouldn't take a lot of comfort in the fact that knowing people could quit today, because they're not feeling like they're a part of something, that their input doesn't matter. That would scare me more.
Well, sure. There are ways you can create, I think, cooperation systems or cooperation heavier systems where they're relying on that, where you can still walk away. The secret in that situation, by the way, I think, is coaching. You're stop being the CEO, start being your team's coach. Yeah. And then you walk in and you invite the atmosphere of cooperation and you leave and let them play the game.
Yeah.
I think though, people who are listening to this, some people may be listening to this and going, well, I'm not the boss. I'm the manager, I'm the employee or whatever. And I'm asking these questions and I'm frustrated because I'm in a compliance situation and my store owner, business, CEO, whoever's in charge, doesn't want to move the needle. It's frustrating me. I would encourage you, if you're in that situation, to hear what Jimmy and I were saying, or Jimmy was saying a second ago. We were talking about behind that need to create a compliance system. It might be because they're afraid. The emotion is fear. And when we lead from a place of fear, we're leading from that anxious place in mind. It's never going to be a good outcome.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Going back to the thing that we talked about often, get into a relaxed state of mind and realize that the person that's maybe holding that system up from changing is just afraid. And if you were afraid too, you might also behave in the same manner. So if you want to see a culture shift and change in yourself, in your team, in your boss, whoever, then in cooperation, we have to remove the fear and we create a relaxed and safe place. If you can work right now on creating a relaxed state of mind and a safe place, that's the beginning, really the beginning of great cooperation. And it may take some time to get there, hence the name Slow Growth Podcast.
And especially today's workers, they want a reason to be there. My son right now is looking for other jobs outside of the current job that he has. And the current job that he has, he's basically a pencil pusher. And that's how they treat him. I mean, he's on Excel, that's what he does. But he wants to be a part of something bigger. He wants to be a part of a movement. And people want that. And so my encouragement to you is, if you are in a highly compliant system and you want to free yourself up a little bit, just start small. Start small. Hey team, let's gather around. You know what? We need to pick out some new wrapping paper. What are your thoughts? Or, just something fun like that. Get their input on something. Start small and eventually get bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of their cooperation. Love it. This is good stuff. We should do more of this.
I love this question, Jimmy. Thanks for bringing it up again this week.
We hope you leave this episode a little better than when you first began. If you'd like more resources to grow your business slow, steady, and consistently, check out our on-demand video catalog at trainretail.com. Or if you have a question or frustration we can help address in your business, write to us about it. We love to help solve big, ugly problems. So hit us up at kyle@trainretail.com or jimmy@trainretail.com. Good luck out there, and we will see you next time.